Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Asaph Cafe. I am your host, Asaph Adonai. Let me check our time here. It is exactly 5:30. That'll make it a lot easier.
Right on the dot.
And our guest for this segment, I'm going to do a one-on-one with our guest here. Our guest is Mauro Sparkley. He is the creator and host of Trailers and Trash television show and computer show. Yeah. And he's on the cafe to keep me company today because our regulars weren't able to come. We had to tape this at a later date, so we're on our Vegas, New York set.
It's the late night.
Late night
Asaph's
taping.
Cafe.
Yeah. We normally tape it in the afternoon, but we're doing the late night version, so it'll just be a one-on-one.
And I want to let these people know, man, if they're in the Missoula area and they're looking for a cheap, affordable vacation to Las Vegas, get in touch with this man because he can hook you up. Look at this. This is beautiful where we're at here. I love this. This is awesome.
This is our Vegas, New York set.
This is great, yeah. So
I'm gonna start with a quick word of silence. Lord, bless this show. Amen.
Amen.
We always do that here. I'm gonna start out with the song I played on your show, Burt Bacharach's "This Guy's in Love with You," and I'll play it on this piano here.
Oh, beautiful.
Big difference on this from the other one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Have all your registers covered there.
Yeah. This is such a beautiful song.
Oh, I love it. This kind of puts me in a dreamlike daze. I love it.
Well, just make yourself at home, my friend.
Absolutely.
So how have you been?
Oh, I've been good. Been a while, huh?
Yes, a couple of days since I've seen you, yeah.
Yeah, I sure had fun having you on my show on Trailers and Trash. It's it's the brokest talk show in America.
We'll talk about that too. I want you audience to know about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful song.
That was good. That's nice.
And the conclusion.
I like that.
Thank you. There's the conclusion.
That was beautiful.
This Guy's in Love with You. That's the name of the song.
Awesome.
It was
this guy, not
this
guy.
Not
this
guys.
guy.
No, not this guy. This Guy's in Love with You.
Gotcha.
That's the name of the song. It was written by a composer of the '60s named Burt Bacharach.
Yeah, Burt Bacharach's great.
Yeah, but a famous trumpeter named Herb Alpert made it famous.
Awesome.
And it was pretty cool because, he took his trumpet at the end of singing it and he was playing that solo. It's just such a soothing, relaxing thing.
That was written in the early 60s?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Something like, I couldn't tell you the exact year, but around the early 60s.
When did you learn it?
Oh gosh, I probably didn't start playing until around maybe late 70s, I guess.
Well, you do it justice.
Well, because I had to grow up,
Yeah,
I had to take time to
absolutely.
grow up,
Don't we all?
So when that song was famous, I was probably learning my ABCs or something at that time.
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't even a thought in anybody's mind.
You weren't a dot in your mama's eye there. So anyway, let's talk about the history of Trailers and Trash. Now that is your creation, right?
Yes, that's my creation. So it streams live on YouTube. We try to do an episode once every 2 weeks, although we're not yet on a regular schedule, though we hope to be soon. We film each episode on a budget of about $8.67 an episode. So it is officially the brokest talk show in America.
I like that concept. Though.
Absolutely. Yep, I've looked into it, and it's amazing to me how this technology that you used to have to go to, a television studio like this, and it was available to, you know, a kind of a select few people, and now it's literally household technology. Anybody with the internet can broadcast from their home.
Yeah.
And I just found that to be so fascinating that I had to just kind of dive right in and play with it, you know.
Good for you.
See what I could do.
How long you been doing that? So about 8 months, you said?
About a year now, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, we started summer 2015. And it's really, we've came quite a ways since then. We started, we didn't have a desk, we didn't have really any concept of a set, and now we have the extra television monitor, we have a landline phone so people can call into the show. If they're watching the live broadcast, they can call in, talk to the guests, ask them questions. So it's really just kind of a constant work in progress.
Good for you.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear
absolutely.
it. You know this song?
I don't. Who is that?
It's a movie. Still don't know.
It's not You Send Me?
No.
No, it's not that one.
Christopher Reeves.
Shoot.
Love Story.
Oh, Love Story? Is that what it?
No, it's a love story, the movie. It's the theme to Somewhere in Time.
Oh, gotcha.
With Christopher Reeves and Jane Seymour. I'll do that verse again.
Classic.
See if you recognize it. Recognize it?
Not off the top of my head. My music trivia is a little bit rusty, I gotta say.
Don't worry about it.
Well, and when you play your renditions too, you enrich them so much, you know.
I'll tell you the secret in a moment.
Yeah, you add a lot to them. Absolutely.
And here's the conclusion. Isn't it pretty?
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
So that's the theme to Somewhere in Time. Basically, the synopsis of that film, Christopher Reeves is from the future. I don't know if you ever saw the movie or not, but at the very beginning, this old woman walks up to Christopher Reeves' character and says, "Come back to me."
Oh,
This
wow.
old woman. So what he does is he goes into his laboratory or his home. He strips himself, empties himself of anything from the future, like coins, pens, and things like that.
So he can
He
blend in.
empties himself, and he puts the outfit on of the time where that woman's from. And then he goes back in time to rekindle the love affair with that old lady who is now young because he's gone back in time. And so they're just having a beautiful relationship throughout the movie. And what happens is there was a coin that he left in one of the pockets that he forgot to take out. And when he takes the coin out from the future, it
Plot
plunged,
twist.
it plunged him back into the future and away from that lady. And he went
Oh,
into a
no.
state of depression, and he was not able to go back into the past again.
So how did it end?
Well,
Spoiler
because
alert.
this is a whole movie. So how it ends is she had already died at that time when he went back into the future, and he was in such a state of depression that he passed away, and so she's up there in heaven waiting for him.
So it's like a happy end.
Happy ending, yeah. It had a happy ending to it, yeah.
Awesome. Christopher Reeves was a great actor, man.
He was.
The only Superman, really. And wasn't that Christopher Reeves, right?
Yeah, Christopher Reeves. Well, they had two Supermans before Christopher Reeves. They had George Reeves in the 50s television version, the black and white.
The old serial, yeah.
The old serial. And then prior to that, they had another actor named Alan Kyle, I think was his name. The 1948 serial. And they didn't have the technology to have Superman fly in the air at that time, so what they did, they had a cartoon.
Oh, when he was flying, just a
it was a cartoon.
little drawing.
Yeah, a little cartoon drawing. Then when the cartoon would land, it would turn into the human.
Very cool.
So that's kind of a Superman trivia there.
Awesome.
But anyway, getting back to Trailers and Trash, so you created that show and started filming it about a year ago?
Yeah, that's right. Just started broadcasting live on YouTube, like I said. Started out with just pretty much 2 chairs and no concept of what the show would be, and it's now starting to finally develop and come into its own a little
Yeah,
bit.
I enjoyed being on your show there. So our viewers at Asaph Cafe can watch Marl's here on YouTube. Just put Trailers and Trash on YouTube and just pick any episode at random, right? And
Yeah,
they
pretty
should
much.
be able
You
to
can either
see that.
do that, or you can go to pcfitv.com, and that'll just redirect you to the YouTube channel, and it's all
Okay.
right there too. So that's a little bit of an easier web address for
Right.
people to remember.
Why don't you repeat that again for the audience?
It's pcfitv.com.
Good. So
Yep.
people watching this can check it out. And I
Yeah.
see you have your shirt. I don't know how well it'll show up on camera. Is that your game shirt? Your video
No,
game
this is
shirt?
actually, well, it's a parody of the original NES Black Box series. It's a parody of a game called Duck Hunt.
Okay.
And this is actually a band, they're a band of rapping clowns.
Okay.
Called the Insane Clown Posse, and they kind of like did a remake of the box art. On the
Okay,
shirt,
I guess
so-
I wouldn't know that. You got to remember, we got a little generational
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
going
There's
here.
a little bit of a generational gap, but it makes it interesting, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That does. So, let's see. Let's talk about yourself. Are you from Missoula?
No, I was actually originally born in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, okay, it's a beautiful country out there.
And yeah, my mother and my father split up when I was about 8 years old.
Okay.
And my dad married a musician, bought a tow truck, and moved to Montana.
It took too long, huh? That sounds like something out of a movie there, you know?
Oh, if you only knew, my friend. There's actually a book that just came out about my father. It's called Car Trouble. It's on Amazon.com by Sean Lake. Really interesting. I mean, the misadventures you can get into being not only a tow truck driver, but a tow truck driver and a musician and living in rural Montana. It's just amazing, just some of the things he got into. So yeah, born in Portland. I moved to Alberton, Montana when I was about 8 years old.
Okay.
And I went to school in Frenchtown. We lived in Alberton, but I went to school in Frenchtown.
Okay, good.
Um,
And when did you graduate?
that was going to be the next part of the story. I didn't graduate high school. I was what they might call an at-risk youth when I was 14 or 15.
I don't want you put on the spot here.
Oh, no, you're fine, you're fine. What you call an at-risk youth at 14 or 15, and I actually got sent to a military academy for 6 months, and that's where I got my basically my high school diploma.
Good for you.
Was in the military school, and it was there that I also found out that I kind of had a severe dislike for authority.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that. So yeah. So I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
And it's
but,
not as bad anymore. This was when, this was 10 years ago, I thought.
Well, I hope this will encourage some young person that might be happen to watch this episode.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So you went to this military school.
And I graduated. I actually did fairly well there.
Good
I
for
mean,
you.
I was there, so I might as well give it my all, kind of finish
Good
it
for
up.
you.
You
Good
know.
for you. I'm glad to hear that.
Got out of that, and that's when I started kind of being a wandering soul for about 5 years. I started hitchhiking, hitchhiked all around the West Coast several times, like kind of the 101 between Washington, Oregon, California. That was kind of my main drag, you might call it.
Right.
Just that Oregon coast and the Washington coast is beautiful.
I know,
all the
I've been
time.
there.
Yeah, camp right on the beach, and it was awesome. A really good time. Went to a couple rainbow gatherings, if you've ever heard of that.
I know of it.
It's it's the largest unorganization of people in the whole world.
Yeah.
And they get together every year on national forest land. It's somewhere different every year.
Yeah.
And up to 10 to 20,000 people show up and just kind of form their own community in the woods for
Cool.
a couple weeks. Yeah, really interesting experience. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's a perfect song while you're talking about your Montana experiences.
Yeah,
That's a song
yeah,
called
for
Red
sure.
River Valley. I don't know if you've heard it or not.
Red River Valley.
Yes,
I'm
do
not
it again.
familiar.
You don't recognize it?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Red River Valley.
Beautiful song. Love
Yes,
that.
it is a
Love
pretty cool
that.
song. It's a way cool song.
Man, it sure is amazing to me how music has changed in the modern age. And
Well, let
now-
me give you a brief history about music. You may have heard this, or maybe you haven't. There's basically 5 periods in music history that we're aware of. One was called the Renaissance era,
Uh-huh.
and that goes way back to something like the 14th
Which
century.
was the Baroque was...
Yeah, no,
directly after
first,
that?
no, it was the medieval period,
Mhm.
and then they had what was called the Renaissance period, and then they had what was called the Baroque era,
Yeah.
which was probably around 1600-ish,
Mhm.
around there. That was around the time somebody like Bach came around.
Bach and
like I'll do a
that
piece
party animal Mozart.
You recognize the song? Have you heard it?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Many, many times.
I'm going to stop right there. That is called the Prelude in C. That came out around the Baroque era. And then they had what was called the classical period or the classical era, which was like Beethoven, Chopin.
Oh, okay.
You know,
and
all
that's
that.
when the party animal Mozart
Yeah.
busted onto the scene. That
Yeah,
guy
he
was
burst
wild,
onto the scene.
wasn't
Yeah, he was.
he was kind of the first punk rocker.
I guess you could call
In
it
a
that
way.
in his time.
In
Yeah,
a
for the
way.
classics.
For the time, yeah.
And then they had what was called the Romantic era. That was the introduction to, you know, the music that we currently have. Because in that time zone of the Romantic era, they had like the Negro spirituals, which you may have heard of, the music of the 1910s and 20s, Louis Armstrong and the old jazz, and the slave music, I guess they called it. And it started to evolve until we had what was called big band music
Yeah.
around the 30s and 40s. Count Basie, Duke Ellington.
Which was the precursor to all pop,
Yeah.
kind of, as we know
And
it.
as that was expanding the big band music, they had what was called bebop.
Mhm.
That was kind of a different form of jazz. It was like lightning quick. You know, every song, everybody took a
Bebop,
solo.
and then they
yeah.
had scat, right?
Yeah,
kinda in
and then
that
it was
same
just
vein.
evolving. And then, of course, by the time the early pop music of the 50s came out, it put a lot of those big band musicians out of work. And the reason for it is because the early rock and roll music, Little Richard, Buddy Holly and the Crickets, that music was so simple. It just had like a verse, and then it had a what they called a hook or a chorus line.
Verse, chorus, verse.
And the kids ate that up.
Yeah,
And then, of course, a young
absolutely.
Sinatra burst on the scene then, too. And then eventually they had what was called the British Invasion. They had the Beatles. They had the Stones. They had the Association. They had the Mamas and the Papas. And just all those groups burst on the scene.
Well, and what's amazing to me too is now just how music is being delivered to people. Like recorded music used to be kind of a luxury.
Yeah,
item,
see,
and now
it was like I
record-
told you, in that day they had this big recording studio with a 24 track mixing board is what they called it at the time. They had a glass in front, so the band and the singers would be behind that glass, and a 24 track mixing board was here, and they had producers and stuff adjusting it and doing their thing. But now we got the computer age, so
now we're
you
in the
don't need all
computer
that
age.
stuff.
Yeah, and people like recorded music is essentially free to listen to now, whereas it used to be a kind of a luxury item in 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah, it's just kind of common.
But what
now.
that's leading to is a lot of these bigger and even smaller bands are getting a lot more creative with how they're making their money. Now you're seeing custom works of art. You're seeing a lot more like signed albums for $10 more, and you're seeing a lot more bands getting out on the road and touring. And
Right. See, when I was
working.
coming up, before they had the computers, they had what was called a quarter-inch reel-to-reel tape. It was these cassette tapes that were like really
Reel-to-reel,
thick,
yeah.
that they did the reel-to-reel stuff. And the lifespan of those usually were about 100 years, and then they would transfer the music from the quarter-inch onto the 45 record. They used to have these little tiny records they called 45s, and the big ones.
Yeah,
were
no, I
all
remember
kinds
the
of 33s.
them big old
45s.
black discs with the hole in the middle.
Yeah, that's so primitive compared to what's out there today, but that's the way it was at that time.
I try to buy all my music on vinyl. I find the sound is superior.
Well, it's more of a nostalgic, I would say.
And I was reading an article in the Rolling Stone, and it said that a high fidelity vinyl record player system is able to capture and play a higher range of noises than any digital format. That's
Oh yeah, that could be true there. Let's have some fun for a second.
Yeah,
Tell me if you know this
absolutely.
song.
Of course.
You know this one, okay?
Secret Agent Man.
I'll do a piece of. song to do.
Very cool. Interesting. That's actually the very first lick on guitar that I ever learned. That my dad taught me. It was from Secret
No, I believe it. Yeah, that's a pretty cool lick.
Yeah, for sure.
I just test your trivia. Do you know who the artist is that made that song famous?
Oh man.
The original
No,
artist?
it wasn't. Are you talking about the guy who wrote it, or the guy?
The guy
who
who introduced, made it famous. Well, probably wrote it too.
Who?
Johnny Rivers.
Johnny Rivers. That's
Johnny
right.
Rivers,
Oh,
the
my
singer.
my old music trivia is really.
That's okay.
really
Well, you don't
rusty.
hear that song much anymore. But that was such a cool song because it had an interesting beat.
Yeah.
It had a really rhythmic beat. This is a piano version, so.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and it has
know?
a good build to it. There's a distinguished beginning, middle, and end, which
And
to
it was-
me,
it was
that's
a-
what makes a good song.
It was a
you
big
know?
hit. Just a
Yeah,
real big hit.
absolutely.
And those were fun times, those music. And they don't make music much like that anymore these days.
Well, I'm sure you're living it.
Yeah, well, you know, I caught like some of the tail end of some of that.
Absolutely.
But it was fun. And that Secret Agent Man was way cool.
Very fun song.
So-
Very fun.
Okay, we did the Stones. Let's do a short version on this here. This would be my little gift to you.
Oh, thank you, man.
Now you can say someone did this for you. Isn't that pretty?
Oh man, beautiful.
There we go.
Very nice.
And the conclusion. There you go.
Beautiful.
Thank you,
Love
my
it,
friend.
man.
Now, speaking of those tricks, I was trained to do that.
Mhm.
To take any popular song and make it sound like classical music. I had a pretty good teacher that showed me those techniques.
That's awesome. So it's
And I trained for a whole year to be able to do that.
that was in San Francisco or
No, I learned that actually here in Montana before I moved to Missoula. This
Very
was
cool.
years ago. But I'll give you a demonstration. You ever been in a piano bar? You might hear something. They might do something like this. Let's take the girl from Ipanema. I don't know if you know this song or not. They might do something like this. See, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
Or like I left my heart in San Francisco, they might do something like this. You know, something like that.
Yeah.
In my case, I just embellish it a little bit where you can hear the melody, and it just makes it sound like classical music because there's not a big demand for classical music.
Yeah.
So you get your classics and your pop. So if I do the girl from Ipanema, it might be something like this. Something like
Oh
that.
man, world of difference too.
Yeah,
I
there's a
mean,
big
with a lot of
difference.
those pop songs, they just get a little bit repetitive, and especially if you're playing them on one instrument.
Yeah,
you know?
so it's, you know, in my case, the teacher had a teacher, let's just make fun with it. Because
Yeah.
I had a teacher that can play anything.
Yeah, just
This
listen
guy-
to it and it was there.
Yeah,
And
well,
you
he
can-
had a lot of sheet music out
Uh-huh.
too, but he wasn't necessarily playing what was written.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I noticed, and I just trained for a year. And his style was different than mine, obviously, because he was the teacher. I developed this style with this teaching.
Awesome.
Marshall Coswell was his name.
So
He was a
must have
professional
been a brilliant
pianist.
guy.
He was. He
sounds
was a
like.
professional pianist at the Northern Hotel and a music educator.
Very
So
cool.
I
Now,
trained.
that was here?
That was in Montana, not here in
Montana, okay.
Missoula, but in Montana. This,
Where at?
this was like 20 years
Whereabouts?
ago, in Billings.
Oh, in Billings, okay.
This was probably about 20 years ago, something like that, at that time. So
That's right, you worked in Billings for a while, didn't
yeah,
you?
I played there for 12
At
years.
was that?
Yeah, the Northern Hotel was where
Yeah.
I normally played, but I did a
Awesome.
lot of other community events at that time
Very cool, very
for
cool.
12 long years.
Do you know how to play? This is going to be a long shot. An
Okay.
old rock and roll song called Godzilla.
Probably not. I'll tell you why.
Well,
Because
well.
no, what I mean is when you repeat a song, there has to be a distinctive melody that goes all the way through. You know, a lot of those pop and rock songs are rhythmic, where they're talking is rhythmic and
Yeah.
they sing here and there, and there's no way to repeat it. But like with the Painted Black, there's this distinctive melody. You know what I'm saying? So you can repeat it. See, there's a distinctive melody.
Yeah, to
So to
follow along
repeat it,
with.
it has. If I do any of those songs, any rock song, it's gotta have a melody.
A really distinct melody.
Yeah, a
too.
distinctive
Yeah,
melody to be able to repeat
absolutely.
it. Now there are some. Let's see if I can think of.
Would you care for a chip?
Yeah, why not? We're on a cafe here. Okay.
That's what I figured.
You know the song?
No, which one is that?
Song Sung Blue.
Beautiful.
That's by Neil Diamond. It
Awesome.
probably goes way before your time too.
Oh, a little bit. My dad's really into Neil Diamond. So.
Well, I'm trying to think of some more modern songs that I'm gonna put together.
Yeah, well,
you know,
you're
stay
working on
current.
a rendition of a Wrecking Ball.
Yeah,
Is that
it'll
right? By
be something
Hannah
like this.
Montana?
Let's see.
Coming at you like a wrecking ball.
Something like this. Something like that. I'm working out Wrecking Ball. That's gonna be pretty cool to have a piano version when I get it like I really want it.
I had a really wild New Year's Eve once where someone put that song on the jukebox at about 1 in the morning, and me and my friend, we were having a night, you know, having a rowdy night, and we just started belting it, man. We had the
Okay.
whole bar singing along with us.
Yeah, I saw the video to that, and this old man like they had to fan himself.
Oh, thank God! Thank goodness nobody was filming us.
Yeah, I had to go like this. You know, this is a true story. I was playing at the mall, and the manager, I won't mention his name on TV, he happened to have his little smartphone. He was taking a break. I'm not gonna even mention the store because everybody watching will go to the store. So anyway, he says, "Asaph, you want to see something?" And I thought he was gonna show me some old. Yeah. He was
Yeah.
like, "Take a look at." He didn't tell me what it was. He says, "Take a look at this." And it was Miley Cyrus swinging down the ball. I was like this, like. So she's a beautiful woman anyway. So
Well,
you know,
that's
you're
true.
gonna notice
Yeah.
if some girl 20 years old swinging down a pole in a birthday
If
suit.
she's coming at you like a wrecking ball,
Yeah.
you're gonna notice.
You're gonna notice. So, and I was like, man, I can't believe this man's got this video here. I was like, fanning myself. But no, that's a pretty cool song though, you know, and for I guess the younger generation of people, I would think.
Yeah,
I don't think there's
absolutely.
necessarily wrong with any of that. I mean, that kind of entertainment is probably something I wouldn't do.
There's nothing wrong with it, but I think there's too much of it,
Well, probably.
and there's not enough alternative. You know.
Yeah, but
And that's what I love about your idea about rebooting the Lawrence Welk show. Is
yeah, well, we're working on
the
that.
world
But
needs it more than ever, man. You
yeah,
know.
we want to get a show where if you're not watching Miley Cyrus swinging a chain and a ball,
Yeah.
you can, you know. I'm not gonna say that's wrong. I mean,
No,
everybody's
not at
conviction
all.
is different, so. You
I
know.
mean, for $1 million, you'd see me swinging on a wrecking ball just like.
Yeah, but so I don't think people want to see you and me swinging on that. I think they'd rather see her.
No, probably not. But I'm
You
just
know.
saying, if there's someone out there that offered me $1 million
Oh.
to swing on a wrecking ball, then I would, you know, I'd probably.
Well, at
do
least
it.
you get your
I'd do it.
trailers and trash show.
I'd probably do it for $20, you know. What can I say?
Yeah, maybe 25 for me, since I'm a little older.
Yeah.
No, you got your notes here. You wanted to comment on some of those notes there.
Oh yeah, let's see. We pretty much have covered almost everything except for social media. Now you're on Facebook, is that?
Well, I
right?
am now, but see, from my point of view, it's relatively new because, you know, I noticed the younger people can adapt to that quicker. It's like Star Trek, you know, what is that, the Borg? You will assimilate.
Assimilate, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It adapt real quick.
Yeah, it's just
You know?
what gets me about it is everybody says that it's necessary now.
I think it is to a point. Well, let me explain what I mean. You don't have to have a smartphone. You don't have to have a laptop computer. I understand that. But if you're going to function by the standards of society, I think it's good to have that.
You need to be connected, but
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't think you need to be that connected. There's
Well, you don't want to be
very
sitting in front of
little-
Facebook for 10 hours a day. I
Yeah,
understand
absolutely,
that.
absolutely. And they did a psychological experiment on about 150,000 of their users back in 2012, where they manipulated their news feeds to show either more positive or more negative posts
Yeah.
as a method of studying nonverbal emotional contagion. So that's literally, your emotions being tampered with.
Okay, yeah.
And
But no, I see your point,
that's
too.
kind of what got me.
I think there has to
Right.
be maybe a boundaries, balance, whatever. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I got it just to sort of keep up somewhat by the
Yeah.
standard and to be able to function. Because I had lost a lot of work in the piano world because they couldn't reach me through the modern technology. So now I've
And
got
that's
that
kind
problem.
of that's the shame of it. It's,
I know.
It's
Well,
become
it just is
so
what it is.
necessary.
I saw, when President Obama went to Vietnam recently, I was watching the world news and they had like probably thousands of people to see the president. And I looked at this and I noticed that almost everybody had one of those smartphones and they were, and that was in Vietnam. I thought, okay, yeah, if they can do that in that part of the world, I guess we're going to need it to keep up. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. I'm not, if you want to like live in a cave or whatever,
Yeah,
fine, God
yeah,
bless you, but
absolutely.
just to keep up, that's all I got it,
See, it's just like anything. Some people can handle it, some people can't. And
Yeah.
I guess I'm just one of those people that can't. And I haven't found it's hindered my ability to be connected or stay in contact with people.
Yeah,
or
like I said, you don't
contact people.
have to have it.
Yeah.
It just makes life easier by the standard here.
Yeah,
that we have.
yeah,
That's all I'm
absolutely,
saying. The standard
absolutely.
here. So, hey, I'll take some more. I'll take another of those tips real quick.
Oh yeah, feel free.
Yeah, well, my
brought-
hands are
I
probably
brought-
not very clean, so
I
I'm
brought
very, very
plenty.
careful.
Oh, that's fine. You've seen my house. I'm not worried about
No,
cleanliness.
but I've been on a public bus, you handle those rails.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
Bob,
for
let's see
sure.
you take it. If I got a little germ on my finger, I think I can handle it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, we're having fun. 35 minutes have already passed by.
Oh my goodness,
See how
can you
fast
believe
this-
that?
yeah,
It just
how fast.
it just flies right by.
It does.
Oh, the reason I was asking about Godzilla, I just had a really funny idea with the green screen. You could kind of.
Well, let's talk about Godzilla for a second. This is before your time, obviously. I told you I lived in Taiwan when I was a little boy, and my father was stationed there. And on the weekends, my mom used to take me and my brother to see these Godzilla movies, the original ones. They had like Godzilla, Mothra, they had Rodan,
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
all the rest of those
Gamera.
monsters. Yeah, and it was 25 cents to see a Godzilla movie in Taiwan.
It's like $25 to see a Godzilla movie now.
No, seriously, it was 25 cents.
gosh.
We'd be in there for what, 2 hours, however long a movie lasts. That's what it was.
That's wow.
Now, you got to remember the cost of living was a lot lower.
Mhm.
So even though you're spending $25 on a movie, it'd be like spending $10.
Yeah,
If you
yeah, for sure.
think
Because
of the
you're only making
standard
25
of,
cents
and the
an
standard
hour,
of living
for
was
an hour of
cheaper
work.
then. Like if you bought a brand new car, it wasn't like 15, 16,000. It was only about 3,000 then. But that was considered a lot. 3 or 4,000 for a brand new car. That was just a different time period.
Yeah, absolutely. Godzilla is really interesting because it's still public domain. So
You talking about the original Godzilla?
The original Godzilla. So anybody, anywhere, at any time can make a Godzilla movie without paying for any licensing.
Yeah, well, do you remember a show called Ultraman? You ever
Oh
see
yeah,
that?
yeah, love Ultraman.
The guy that would fight the Godzilla monster. Let me do that for you. See if you know the melody. Remember it?
I remember. Yep. Nice.
There you go.
Awesome.
Feel a version of Ultraman.
Oh, I love Ultraman. I remember Ultraman on Mystery Science Theater
Well,
3000.
I'm impressed you
A lot
know
of
that
fun,
because
yeah.
a lot of people your age don't remember Ultraman. But anyway, that was cool. The concept of that show.
That was
He's in-
it was a Japanese series,
Yeah,
right?
Japanese series,
Yep.
yeah.
And then
And
they,
they
did
just
a
dubbed it in
British
English.
version, which was
probably a little bit
awful.
more technical, fancier. I
No,
would
it
think.
wasn't. It
Oh,
was
really?
actually far lower budget, and yeah, like if you think the original Ultraman is corny, then
Well,
you should watch the British version.
Well,
It's
let's
20
have
times
fun with
worse.
that for a second.
Yeah,
Hold on, let's see if I
absolutely.
got my little device here. That's the fun thing about being on a cafe. We can do some impromptu things. Let's see if this will
Nice.
show up here. Okay, I got 13. I'm going to have to plug this in here, but let's see if I can get Ultraman on here for a second. When this thing gets down to about 20 and so on, it gets a little cheesy. Let's see if I can get it on here real quick.
Yeah, Ultraman Gamera was another really good one.
You remember Johnny Sacco and his flying robot?
Yeah, that's my roommate's favorite.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a moment.
Absolutely.
I'll play that for you too.
You know that theme?
Of course.
Do you really? Wow.
Hey,
That's amazing.
I looked at every Godzilla movie in the world when I was a kid. You got to remember that was my era. Remember that?
Oh, very cool. Yep.
Okay, let this
Yeah.
warm up for a second. I'm gonna speed it up to. Well, let's get some of this theme music. See if it'll. Listen to that music.
Great.
That was so funny. Let's see if it'll pick up. Can you see it on the screen there?
hmm
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, Ultraman's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was so cool. But that's my era, though. When this was in its heyday. See. Now I'm gonna speed this up real quick before the batteries die. Now I looked up these people recently on Wikipedia. They're all like in their 70s now. This is when he first fights Bimlar.
Yeah. Yep.
See
Yeah,
if you
great
can get
show.
some of that.
Great
Get some
old
of this
show.
sound. Yeah, Ultraman. Yeah. Okay, we're running out of energy.
They didn't actually broadcast that in the United States.
No, that was
for-
shot in Japan,
for a
and
really long time.
when it came to the United States, it was dubbed in English. And
dubbed horribly.
well, I know that's the way it was at that time, and that's what was fun about those kung fu movies. You ever watch those kung fu movies? It's like the words don't match the mouth. It was so
Yeah.
funny.
Well, and nobody gets that joke anymore when you say, "Look out, it's Godzilla."
Yeah. Well, you got to remember, this is 2016, different era. Ultraman came out in 1966.
Yeah, it was a ways
So,
ago. It was
yeah,
a
it's
ways
like
ago.
40, 50 years ago. And even Star Trek is like about 40, 50 years old now.
Yeah, that Star Trek was 64, I think.
Yeah,
64
let's
to
do some Star Trek
66.
for you. My version.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Star Trek Enterprise. Its continuing mission to seek out new life and new civilizations.
I'll play it for you. Then we'll get to Johnny Sacco. It's a fun song.
Do you know the Next Gen theme?
Isn't that pretty?
Very pretty. Love that.
Now you can say someone plays Star Trek for you too.
Awesome.
That's my version of
And
Star
there goes
Trek.
the ship.
Yeah. That's my version of it.
Awesome.
And
very cool. Have you heard any of Mr. Spock's albums? that
no,
he's
I know
released?
of it, but I mean, I don't think I'd be able to play anything on it. Or
It's
whatever.
pretty funny. You ought to give it a listen one day. It's all on YouTube, Mr. Spock's music.
You might know this one.
Star Wars, yeah.
Oh, listen again. You don't know it?
Which one is it?
Johnny Sacco.
Johnny
That's
Sacco,
the theme
that's
is
right.
Johnny Sacco.
that's
I'll do
right.
it again.
See, I'm not as familiar with Johnny Sacco as I am with Ultraman. Johnny Sacco was kind of like the Western Family Ultraman.
Well, let's
You
talk
know?
about the synopsis of those shows. Ultraman, basically the premise of that show Ultraman's from the 40th galaxy. On a planet called M178.
Yeah, it's beautiful this time of year.
Yeah.
M78, it is, really.
And Bimlar escapes, and he goes through space, so Ultraman's on a ship. And what was funny about that is how can a dinosaur like Godzilla fly a spaceship? Anyway,
Well,
he's flying a spaceship, right?
Let's think about that. We don't really know how intelligent Godzilla is.
Yeah.
All we know is that he likes to rampage and destroy, but there
Yeah.
might actually be some like real things going on up there.
Well,
Who
okay, if
are
you
we
talk
to
about the
judge?
history of Godzilla, there was a movie called Destroy All Monsters, famous Godzilla movie. And then there was a Godzilla movie with the actor Raymond Burr, who plays Perry Mason. I don't know if you would know him, but you know what was funny about that is you got all these scientists in Japan, right, trying to figure out how to stop Godzilla, and they couldn't figure out. And they send this one guy from the United States who isn't Asian, and he figures it out. But that was television.
What was it? How did he figure it out?
Well, he
what
just
ended up having to do?
if I can remember, I think they had some acid or something
Yeah.
they did something to the effect that killed Godzilla. And it was always the same plot. There was always some one guy from the United States who could figure out what the officials and the authorities in Japan...
Or figure out how to control them and guide them to defeat the other monster.
And it's like the same plot, right?
Yeah.
So getting back to Ultraman, at least that made some kind of sense in a little way.
It did, a little bit more
So
than
anyway, he's
Godzilla.
chasing Bimlar through space, and Bimlar decides to go into the Earth's atmosphere. So Ultraman's flying after him. He goes into Earth's atmosphere, and of course the Science Patrol is going to send someone out there when there's these ships in space. So Hayata is sent out there. See, I've got this all memorized. Hayata is sent by the Science Patrol to check it out, and Ultraman's ship crashes into Hayata's ship, and it kills Hayata accidentally.
Oh, man.
In the pilot, that one we showed you earlier. So Ultraman feels really bad. So what Ultraman does is he's going to take and sacrifice his life and give his life back to Hayata. So they become one. So Hayata gets to live. And then when Hayata gets in trouble, he pushes the beta capsule, he turns into Ultraman, and they're one anyway.
Man, I had no idea Ultraman had that much plot.
That was that was the original plot
That's
of
awesome.
Ultraman.
For the first movie.
For the first pilot. First pilot of Ultraman.
That's right.
And of course, since Bimlar showed up on the Earth, the first monster, then next episode, all the other monsters like Godzilla start showing up.
Yeah.
And when the Science Patrol couldn't control the monsters, then Hayata would turn into Ultraman.
Where Godzilla got really bad for me is when they introduced the son of Godzilla.
Yeah,
that cute little...
That was kind of a little corny.
That's when it got, just...
Now let's talk about Johnny Sokko. Let me do it again and see if you recognize it. I'll play it again. Don't recognize it.
I do now. Definitely rings a bell. For sure.
Recognize it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing that Johnny Sokko's flying a robot. Now, the synopsis of this show, there was this gang of, like this bad organization, sort of like Super Friends. You remember Super Friends?
Yeah.
They had the Legion of Doom.
Yep.
Well, there was this bad organization. And why is it always Japan? But anyway. Anyway, there was this bad organization, right? And they were the ones that were funding a program to build this giant robot. And they were going to use that robot to conquer the world and destroy. That was the original plan. The good guys didn't build that robot. The bad guys were constructing it.
That's right.
And
the good guys subverted the robot.
Yeah, what happened was there was this kid named Johnny Sokko who was on this ship, like a cruise ship.
Yeah.
And he becomes friends with a government agent on this ship. And so, he's just, Johnny Sokko's just a kid. He doesn't
just a
know
kid,
anything. He's just
like
a kid.
14, 13.
No, he was younger than that. He was like 10.
Oh,
9 or 10.
Wow.
Just a little kid. So the ship goes down like the Titanic.
Yeah.
And the government agent ends up saving Johnny Sokko from drowning. And they float off into this island where those bad guys are building that robot.
The big secret giant
so then, the secret gets out. The government agent has to tell Johnny who he really is and stuff. So he protects the little boy. because the bad guys were trying to kill that little boy and the government agent. They don't have no mercy. Bad guys never have mercy on anyone. They just kill anybody.
Yeah,
in the movies anyway.
Especially in Japan.
Yeah. So I wonder what the Japanese people think is like Tokyo's always the main city in these movies.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the government agent is protecting Johnny Sacco, and they go into this laboratory, and there's this one scientist in there who's really a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
He tells this government agent, look, I'm the one who created this robot, but the bad guys made me do it.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to do it, but he had no choice. They'd like kill his family or whatever.
Yeah.
So this scientist says the first voice that goes into that robot will control that robot. The very first voice that robot hears, because it was on the verge of activating, it needed atomic power.
And it ended up being young Johnny Sacco.
And young Johnny Sacco was walking around that laboratory, and they had a watch. And he's like, giant robot, move forward! And just spoke into it. And that activated the robot, the sound of his voice. And that robot starts moving very slow at first. And so the bad guys couldn't get the robot because Johnny Sacco had spoken to it.
I think every 10-year-old boy should have a giant fighting robot.
So naturally, the government agent has to take Johnny Sacco to the headquarters. They have to teach this boy how to be an agent and how to control that robot and use that robot to protect theirs.
Yeah.
That's the basic plot of Johnny Sacco.
Can you imagine having that sort of responsibility at 10 years old?
Yeah, but he was just a kid. And you know how kids are fun because the robot can fly. So the robot would be carrying the little boy.
Yeah, in the palm
agent
of his hand.
and they'd be flying. Yeah, and for a kid, that's going to be fun.
It'd be fun.
And that robot had all this tremendous power. Like the first monster that attacked the Earth, the robot had what's called a mega punch. They'd go and knock the monster flat on its back. And it had these missiles that would shoot out the finger. So the little boy go, okay, giant robot, use the missiles. And that robot would be just, making those robot sounds.
Well, and they incorporated a little bit of personality into the robot.
Yeah,
too,
they did. Yeah, as the series
kind
went
of a
on.
friendly oaf, I guess.
But for those Ultraman Johnny Sacco fans that just may watch this and not know the basic plot, that was the original plot of Ultraman and Johnny Sacco. I used to watch all
awesome.
those shows.
Yeah, big
I
fan.
looked at nobody on this planet watched Johnny Sacco as much as I did.
Wow. Wow. And now you said you're stationed overseas at the time?
I lived in Taiwan,
Yeah,
so
in
you
Taiwan,
look at
so
a lot of those kind of movies.
Yeah,
and
because
stuff.
none of that stuff was in the United States
No.
at that point. I mean, things were still sour between the United States
Yeah,
and Japan a little bit after World War II. At
Yeah,
that
we
point.
were in Taiwan, I think, like 1964 at that time. Ultraman didn't come out till 1966. But they still had the Godzilla movies and things like
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
So. I'm just doing some chords now as we're talking.
Awesome, very cool.
We got about
very
10
cool.
minutes left. This is fun. So we got to talk about everything you want to talk. We got to talk on the cafe about Ultraman and Johnny Sacco, which is something I don't get to do much in science fiction.
Yeah, oh gosh. I'm
You
pretty
know.
big science fiction guy. Love comic books.
Well, if you ever-
Spider-Man's my favorite.
Yeah, let's
for
have
sure,
fun with it.
For sure. Oh yeah, now you're talking my language.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spider-Man was awesome to me because he'd always incorporate humor.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. This is good. I love it. Makes me want to start crawling up the walls here.
Something like that.
Awesome.
It's been a while since
Very
I've done
very
that.
cool.
But I'm dating myself because, see, I remember when the original Spider-Man, that Spider-Man cartoon came out.
The cartoon, then there was a live-action series, and there's actually...
Well, there were several Spider-Man series, actually. The actor on Sound of Music, Nick Hammond, he was the first Spider-Man
Oh,
on
wow.
television. He was the first Spider-Man on the ABC series.
And there's a Japanese live-action series,
Yeah,
too.
and that was kind of, the effects weren't that good at that time.
It was pretty much Ultraman, but with Spider-Man instead.
Yeah,
you
and,
know?
and when he would shoot the webs, it just looked like a bunch of rope.
It didn't follow the comic books
yeah,
like at all, but it's fun to watch.
Not to pick on Nick Hammond, he's a fine actor,
Yeah.
but that
Yeah.
they didn't have the technology.
Yeah,
And
simple
so,
as that.
but anyway, they had these Spider-Man, and getting back to what I was talking about the Godzilla movies. I'll get my train of thought there. That's just the way it was.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, absolutely.
Johnny Sacco. But it did have a plot. Both of those had a plot, like I said, in case people watching this don't realize that. They just turn on their TV, see Johnny Sacco and his robot or Ultraman. And
Yeah, and I think
of the TV show. They don't think of the plot.
With a lot of that sort of programming, that's kind of the way it is with people.
They don't think of the plot,
Which, I mean, in like the solid pilot's good, but then every episode gets pretty similar, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty
Now, you know, Ultraman eventually loses his final fight. You know when the series ended?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'll show you the fight scene at the end of that.
He
Because
lost?
as the series was progressing, it was getting more fancier, you know.
Yeah, more higher budget.
And Ultraman should have won that fight, but the reason he lost that fight is because he got caught off guard with a weapon that the monster had when he should have been more paying attention.
Oh my goodness.
And he wasn't paying attention. He wound up losing.
I'll bet a lot of people were upset about that.
Well, yeah, but it had a happy ending still because he was fighting a monster called Zeton. And this monster was one of those kick behind monsters. He's like, boom, boom. He made all these sounds.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing.
Yep.
And Ultraman did all his tricks like the little cross.
Oh yeah, all his
And the
like,
hand
all
stuff.
his sign language.
And that monster would just stand there and go like this, and the shield would go around it.
I never really understood.
I'll show you that.
What was the point of all that?
That was
Ultraman.
okay.
Did?
If you read the history of Ultraman, it was just a mild form of martial arts. The actor that played Ultraman was a suit actor, is what they called him. A suit actor.
A suit actor, which is
You wear a costume.
Okay.
Nobody knows who you are, but they know what you do. Like
Yeah.
Ultraman and maybe some other characters in
Yeah.
costume, like HR Puff and stuff. I don't know if you know.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, puppets, you know, live.
That's
so anyway,
a good theme song there, the HR
Yeah.
Puff and stuff. I love that one.
You know what that's from?
What is
That's
it?
from a classical piece called the Surprise Symphony.
Is that right?
Yeah, Haydn. Here's how it goes. You recognize it here?
Oh yeah, just a little bit slowed down.
Yeah,
than
that's
how it is
called
in
the
theme
Surprise
song.
Symphony. So when they did HR Puff and stuff, they just speeded it up. Hear that melody?
That is probably my favorite children's television theme song,
with
hands down, out of all of
HR
them.
Puff and stuff. Yeah, but that's the Surprise Symphony is the theme. But getting back to the suit actors, they had suit actors in, and you didn't know who they were, but you knew what they did.
Yeah, for sure.
So getting back to Zeton here, he defeats Ultraman, and how he does it, when Ultraman does all his tricks, the shield protects the monster, and then the monster was like doing some of the moves that Ultraman would do on monsters, and he was throwing Ultraman around, and Ultraman would tumble, and he'd get up, you know, and try another trick, and nothing worked. Finally, the monster had like these little rays that came out of his fingers, and it hit the warning light.
Oh, son of a
And
gun.
damaged the warning light, and after the second zap, Ultraman's power was gone.
Well, you'd think they would have had the warning light, maybe not.
It started
right
blinking.
Front and center, though.
Well, yeah, but see, if you read the history
Like
of
I would
Ultraman,
have had it
that's
right here, somewhere where you're not going to get hit. You
but
know?
that's that was connected supposedly to his heart,
Oh, okay.
and so when his energy, he had a lot of energy until he went into the Earth's atmosphere, and then his energy would start to diminish.
That's
because of his
right. That's
atmosphere.
right.
So
he'd get all tired and stuff.
yeah,
then
and
he'd
he
get
had
all
to fly up to the
sluggish.
sun to get the energy
Yeah,
and recharge,
he'd
come back.
power up and
Yeah.
come down and.
So that monster, after fighting Ultraman for a while, he started getting weaker, and a warning light was flashing. That monster took the rays and hit that warning light. After the second hit, Ultraman went down.
Oh my goodness.
He's down like this, and the monster is hovering over him, and he's dreaming of past fights while he's unconscious.
The monster is, or
No,
The
Ultraman. He's dreaming
yeah.
of past fights, and that monster's just sitting there. Then he starts destroying because he knows Ultraman's out of the way.
Yeah.
And Ultraman couldn't hear anybody. He was out unconscious. So then another Ultraman from M70 flies into the Earth's atmosphere and picks up Ultraman and puts him into that ball that they had at the beginning of the series.
Yeah.
And so that was his superior. And so then Ultraman's light recharges inside the ball. And his boss like, I want to know why you allowed that monster to get the best of you. Your powers are more superior to his. I know that, sir.
And Ultraman's like, I couldn't help it, man.
Yeah, he's
I
like,
didn't
he
try
caught me off guard.
I didn't try to get my butt kicked.
So after he gets reprimanded for losing the fight, in order for Ultraman to continue to stay on Earth to fight, he has to go back to M78 and replace that warning light, so he'll be able to fight.
Oh, gotcha.
So what he does is they fix it so that when Ultraman leaves the Earth, Hayata's not gonna die. So they show the ball going up into space and the Superior Ultraman pushes the ball into space, and then Ultraman comes out the ball, and they both fly into space
to get it, so he can go get his warning
home.
light fixed. Well, yeah, it's
So
just
it had
like,
a happy ending, even though he lost.
You know,
the
if your
fight.
brake lights are out in the car,
that's all it is.
They're not
That's
going to
what
let
it's
you
like.
drive on the road. So
yeah, so that's the conclusion. I'll show it to you as soon as we finish taping this show.
Cool,
and if you have time to do show 2, we can do another one. But it was sad.
Yeah, that is sad, man.
But it had a happy ending.
Did they ever bring him back at all?
No, they never did. The series ended there,
series
so it just leaves it to your.
And they just did
Ultraman just goes home.
Then they just
say Ultraman will return one day, and that was it. But that was such a cool show.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And it was fun watching Ultraman fight those monsters.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, that in case you never knew that, those are the premises of those 2 shows. So when you get a copy of the show, you can memorize it.
Yeah.
And go back. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what I'm gonna do with my.
Yeah, I'm dating myself with those shows.
Brush up on some Ultraman.
Oh yeah,
it's been a while.
I about got that whole series memorized. You know, just all those fight scenes. Because I watched that show every day when I was growing up.
Yeah, there's a video game too. I think that they put out for.
Oh, I'm sure they probably used the same music too.
Sega 32X, and they did not do a good job on it, and it kind of ruined. It aided the franchise not being successful in the United States because it was such an awful game.
Okay, we're out of time. Any final words you want to say?
No, thanks. Just tune in to Trailers and Trash,
PCFITV.com. Right.
Thanks for having me on, Asaph. It was a lot of fun.
And time flies, you know. And
sure does.
So we're going to conclude this segment of Asaph Cafe. I'm your host, Asaph Adonai, and our guest is Morrow Sparkley. He is the creator and host of Trailers and Trash. You can check him out on YouTube and have fun with his show. So until our next show, ladies and gentlemen, Maranatha. That's how we end this show. I play that and freeze on that chord.
Lovely.
Well, make yourself at home. Just relax. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to set it up. And if you have time for a second show, you're welcome to be part of it.
Probably not. I actually have somewhere I have to be at 7, but I definitely want to come back and do another one.